Yo, what is up on the rise? I'm here today to talk a little bit about what you should do with your emotions on the tennis court. This past weekend we ran a tournament and I saw a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and thankfully I did not see any of this, but it does happen on the court. So stay tuned to see how you can use your emotions effectively on the tennis court. I'm all for showing emotion on the court as long as it's reasonable, but far too often I see players show emotion in the wrong way. And what I mean by this is that, hey, they might get negative self-talk to themselves, they might get upset, but they don't channel any of that energy into a positive outlook in the match. I think it's pretty unrealistic for a lot of kids that really want to win and are really invested in their tennis to hold all that emotion in. What I end up seeing a lot of the time with that is, hey, they hold it in, and then they have a very huge outburst that's way far over the top of what needed to be. Now, here are two things you can do to use your emotions effectively on the tennis court. The first thing that I would recommend players to do is they can yell, let out a little bit of energy in a positive setting. You want a huge point and you finally maybe hit a big forehand that went in for the first time. You can release some of that energy as a way to fuel that and be like, all right, yes, getting it back in, I can do this, right? The other ways, hey, maybe you've missed a ton of backhands in the net, and if you just let a little bit out after you miss that last backhand in the net to be like, hey, stop missing them in the net, we have to adjust. You can use this energy outburst as a tool to refocus on what you need to do or refocus on what you need to adjust. The next thing I would recommend doing is, hey, you can always hit a ball pretty hard at the back fence. Now, it's really important you hit it at the back fence because I have seen people try to hit to a side fence, they miss and it might hit someone, or they do the same as trying to hit it towards the net and that could hit someone as well. Because you're mad, it doesn't give you an excuse to be dumb. Make sure no one's back there, aim at the back fence, nothing too bad's gonna come from it. Now, before we get into what you shouldn't do on the tennis court to use your emotions effectively, make sure you hit the subscribe button here below and like the video. Lastly, here's a common thing I see that I would not recommend doing to use your emotions effectively on the tennis court. Wait, did you subscribe to the channel yet? The last thing that I see, and these are what I see a lot more, is like a racket drop or a racket throw, which I don't see the racket throw a ton, but the racket drop I see quite often, and to me, I would rather see someone hit a ball at the back fence or let out a little yell, because the racket drop is just like it's so deflating. I always see the shoulders drop, the racket goes on the ground, and very rarely do I see a player do a racket drop and then use that as a fuel to really focus back on the match. Normally it's kind of like racket drop and I start to see a slow tank in the rest of the match. The racket throw, something you never really want to see. I do realize it happens, so I wanted to include it in here. If you're gonna throw the racket, aim at the back fence just like the ball hit. Have the racket hit the fence, land on the ground. It's not gonna damage the racket, it's not gonna damage the court. What you don't want to see is a racket throw right into the ground, and that's when the racket's going to break. It's going to cause a lot bigger of a scene and a lot more attention is going to be brought to you. Hey guys, stay tuned next week because up here in Minnesota stay tuned next week. Right now in Minnesota, it's windy all the time. We're going to cover some strategies so you can use the wind to your advantage.